All right. So I am sick and could not sleep. So I went online and checked Reddit, and I saw a post by Motion Sailor asking for help on perspective, specifically 2 point perspective, because he can't draw, or she can't draw angles right, or they can't get the right size. So do I recommend that they keep drawing objects at 1 point perspective and move on to two, or just kind of keep going on and try to muscle through it. So the first thing is that perspective is basically intended to be the solution to that problem. You shouldn't have problems drawing or using perspective and getting things in the wrong size. Basically, you should be using perspective to figure out things in the right or the wrong size. So that said, though, it's perspective is one of these things that's really, I find, poorly explained by just about everybody. And there's a couple things to kind of realize that hopefully will help. And the first ones are going to be pretty simple. So whenever I'm doing perspective stuff, what I always do is I start off with a canvas that's way larger than what I need to use. So this is US ledger size, which is like 17 wide by 11 inches high. So it doesn't really matter what you're going to be doing it at, but so effectively what's going to happen is that the area that I'm going to be using to kind of work with is going to be significantly smaller. So let me go pick a rectangular tool and make sure it's set to pixels, which it is. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, all right, this is going to be our area to sort of work with. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to have the and I probably should have had the fill be none. Opacity. That's fine. Whatever. We'll have a red area that we're going to work with. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to stick in a horizon line. So the horizon line is another one of those things that's really poorly described. The horizon line basically is eye level. So it's eye level of the viewer. And there's a couple different things that you're going to be sort of thinking about whenever you're dealing with perspective, which are probably worth mentioning really quickly. So that's sort of weird that shape is still there. Go ahead and put up all right, well, that's funky. So I'm going to go put up a new layer. And so if you think about perspective, right, what you're basically doing is you are a person, right? Hopefully not a robot or something like that. You're a person, and you're standing somewhere, and you have your eyes, which you're looking at something. And basically, what we're drawing on, right, the canvas that we're drawing on, is equivalent to like a window, right? So the window is in front of us. So we've got this window here. And, that's why I'm a color dodge layer. That's weird. There we go. So we have this person, we're looking at a window. We've got our window here. And then we've got like a house out here somewhere. Yeah. And the idea is, if we look from where our eye starts, we're going to have an angle, right? That's going to go from our eye to the different parts of the house, and it's going to intersect. Pick a different color with this window, right, at these different spots. So that's what we're basically drawing in perspective. Is we're putting this on this window pane. So the horizon line is your eye level. So if we go look at your horizon line, basically it's right here, right? So if you're that person, the horizon line is going to go cut through your eye. So that's the first way to measure things, right? So that's the line of your eye height. So if you have a really simple kind of perspective thing, and we're looking at this, and this is our horizon line, and we have another person, and their head cuts through the horizon line here. If we have someone off in the distance and they're further away, and they're the same height as you, their head is going to go cut through the horizon line at the same point. So proportionally, objects are always going to go cut through the horizon line at the same point. And that doesn't matter whether it's 2-point perspective or 1-point perspective. It's basically 2-point perspective and 1-point perspective are basically the same thing. It's just you have, in one instance, the lines, being square to you, so you're in the middle, and the object is facing you directly. And a 2-point perspective, we have it tilted. So you could actually have something, and this is completely valid, where you have 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective in the same scene. They just apply to different objects. And that was something that I was really kind of weirded out by when I first started doing kind of perspective stuff. So, all right, going back to our previous layer, right? I'm not sure why my little square didn't work, but let's do it this way. So I'm going to go give us a square. We can go ahead and use. And I'm just going to go to stroke. I always forget what that is. Oops. I'll say 5 pixels. There we go. Did that not work? Oh, I got a weird mask thing going on. Alright, so let me try to do the same. Alright. So we've got our horizon line. Let me pick a brush that's probably a little bit better for working with, just kind of something really simple. A hard round, and we'll make this smaller. 5 pixels. All right. So we'll put our horizon line in here. And we're going to go have basically the position that you're standing in, which is going to be in the middle. And an easy way to go find that out is you just go take one corner of your box to your other corner of your box, go top, corner of the box. All right, now this is the middle. So this is your true center line. So the idea is that, right, so let's imagine this as a window. Right? And it doesn't matter whether we're doing 1-point perspective or we're doing 2-point perspective. On this window, right, we can measure things. So this is basically 0 feet into the screen. What we can do is we can say, all right, well, we want to go ahead and divide this up in multiple pieces. And actually, let me do this on different layer. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing again. Oops. All right, so now we get dead center. All right, we've got halfway. We'll do halfway over there. So one of the really nice things about this is because we can kind of divide these boxes in half, and that will basically find us the middle of things, we can keep using that to subdivide. So I can say, all right, well now, if I go in the middle of this one, I know that that is halfway. And I know that this is halfway. And I can do that again. And now this is halfway. And I know this can get like a little bit monotonous, but that is perspective. And now I can do this over here because I know that's where that intersects. Right. And I can keep doing this depending on how detailed I want to be with my measurements. Let's see over here. All right. So the idea is, because this is drawn on the edge, right? And effectively these lines are going to be fixed distance. Goes off. Deselect it. So if I go and do this, copy. I now have rulers, basically, is what I have. So if I go back down here, which line was it that I was doing all that nonsense on? All right, yeah. So let me go put this center line back in. I'll basically go up to a new layer. Do all this again. And I should mention, by the way, you don't have to do this every time. You know, one thing you can do that's really easy is just like download like a template for this, or just do this once and then save it as a template. And then you can use it, you know, anytime you want to go use it. So we get that. There's our halfway point. And I'm going to go back down here and copy this other side of the ruler again. All right. And let me go extend this down a little bit further. Helps when you get a brush. All right. So why did I put this line down here? Well, the reason why I put this line down here is, now that I have this line, I can go ahead and I know that this is in the center. I can go do a 45-degree angle from that. So if I go down to my line tool, pop this guy over here, right, down the bottom, hold shift. I can only do 45 degrees. Actually, let me bring this all the way up to the horizon line. All right, so now we've got a couple reference points. So at this point, I can now look at basically the measurement on this layer, and I can say, all right, well, let's say, and this is completely arbitrary. It's whatever you decide these increments are. So this could be, if we're working with something big, this is 1 foot, right? This is 1 foot, right? So the idea here is we can draw whatever we want to draw on this layer, and then we can go basically push that out into perspective. So let's say I want to go have something that is 2 feet by 2 feet, right? And I want to have this 2 feet in from where I'm standing. So I can go, this is basically 2 feet here. Why does it keep making 8s? So 2. And then we're going to go have these guys be 2 as well. So let's say I want to have this 2 in, and I want to have it 1 up. I'm going to go start here. And I'm going to go make this be 2 feet. So now I come over and take my line tool, and let me go make this 5 pixels. So it's a little bit thicker. And I'll pick a different color. So I can go ahead and say, all right, if I go push this out over here, right, I can then just come up over here. And this is drawing on the window itself, right? This is drawing on the glass of the window. And now, basically, we have a box, right? So if this was 1 point perspective, I can just take the corners of this box, and I can go map them to, my vanishing point. So I can go ahead and put this one over here, there. So at any point that I want to go in, basically as long as I stay on the same level, I can go ahead and make this be, 2 foot by 2 foot square. So that's going to be exactly 2 feet by 2 feet, no matter where it is. So that's the first thing you can go ahead and do. So measuring depth is a little bit more complicated, but I'm just going to go do the 2 point perspective kind of idea first. So if this is like VP1, and this is VP2, then what we're going to do is we're basically going to do the same thing, but to this vanishing point. So let me go ahead and make this like orange or something. So we can say, all right, well, we want to go ahead and put this guy over here. And then we'll pick maybe green. So we can then go ahead and say, all right, well, the other thing we need to go is like, well, how far, and we're going to go make this box. So basically, instead of just having this be a normal square, the other side is going to go to the other vanishing point. So let's say this is where we want to have our square start. All right, so we can go ahead and say start there. We can then go, from here to here, and from here to here. And at that point, basically, we see these crossing through the line, so we don't really need to do anything else. We can just go bring that down. And then we've got our 2 foot by 2 foot square in perspective. So that's the first part of it. The next piece of it that's a little bit more complicated is based on the sort of the concept of the 45-degree angle. When you have a 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle is a very, very powerful thing. And this is sort of going back to basic geometry. So if you take a square, right? A square is going to be 90-degree angle. And if you cut a square in half, right, well, this is going to be a 45-degree angle. Right. So if we want to go and have a perfect cube, right, what we want to go do is we want to make sure that this side and this side are the same, right? So what we can do is we can basically take the halfway point, right, and figure out where it intersects with something. Right? So if I go ahead and say that I want to go pick this point, I can go set this to be a 45-degree angle. All right, so we've got, that's 45 degrees. Now, because I know that this is, and then this is the sort of the important part where we have that sort of that center line that's in the middle. This is where we're standing. Well, we know that this is 45 degrees from us. So if I were to go take 45 degrees from this, this would also be 45 degrees, right? And also a square, right? Because 45 plus 45 is 90. So this is a really interesting thing because now basically I know if I measure from this point, I can get another 45-degree angle. So if I go to this point right here, right, and I say I want to go measure a 45-degree intersect, right, that's going to go through this line and the vanishing point. I can do that fairly easily. So I've got basically this over here is a reference point. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to go to 45-degree angle. And this is already set up for us. This is sort of convenient that we have these two 45-degree lines. I can say, all right, I'm going to go do 45 degrees. Change over my line tool. So this is a better line. All right. So obviously I drew my line a little bit off, but that's okay. So I've got my 45-degree line here. Right. So now if I make another 45-degree line off of this, right, I'll be able to pick basically where this intersects. So if we go look at this, it crosses through the bottom plane as well. It doesn't just cross through the top plane. So what I have here is basically half of a square. Right. So if I go ahead and look at sort of thinking about this, I can basically say that if I go up from here to here, and then I measure from the reference point over there, or from the vanishing point over there, I now have the bottom of my cube. So I can just bring this up. I can go bring this back. And now, effectively, we have our cube. And the cube is really important because we know that this, right, is 2 feet. Right. And now we know that this is 2 feet, which means that this is 2 feet, right? Because it's basically halfway through these through the square. Right. So that's how you can find basically a perfect cube in perspective. The 45 degree line is basically going to go guarantee that it's 45 degrees to a line that's a square. So as long as it's 45 degrees through both of them, that means that this is in fact a cube, not like an evenly divided rectangle, because that's something that you could have happen as well. So that's the basic idea. Hopefully that helps. I'm going to post this on YouTube, so hopefully it actually recorded. And yeah, keep it up. There's a bunch of really good resources and stuff that you can go find if you look for them. There's a really good class by a guy named SickBrush. So if you go on YouTube and do a search for Christian SickBrush perspective, his first name is Christian. It's not like a religious stick or anything like that. He has some really good perspective tutorials and can get you started on that. But those are two of the big things that are hopefully going to help you with measuring. So just to kind of recap all this, let me kind of minimize all this kind of stuff. The big things that you want to be thinking about are first, horizon line. Things the same size at the same place. So, if you have a tree and you've got a tree that's sort of close by and it divides the line over here, and then we have a tree in the distance, right? It's going to divide it at basically the same point. So obviously that's not a very exact way of measuring things, because objects can be of slightly different sizes, so trees can be different sizes and things like that. But if you're just sort of, kind of doing a really quickie, that's a pretty useful one. The second one is the canvas equals a window. Draw on the window. And apply. And then the third one is to make cubes. Because you can transpose. Actually, another one that's really quick, just before I sort of finish up with this. There's actually a fourth one that's based on the same kind of concept of the X giving you the size of a box. So let's say I wanted to do like railroad tracks or something like that. Oops. And I want them to be the same size. So what I could do is I could basically draw, cross right there, and I could say, all right, this is the distance between my railroad tracks. Or whatever it is. All right. So if I do this, the crossing thing again, I can get the middle of this. And one of the funky things is that obviously the middle, when you're working with proportions, doesn't necessarily look like the place that's the middle, because this is all skewed. But if I take this and I go to the center and I bring this down towards the same vanishing point, this is going to give me the halfway point of that line. So what I can do, and this is sort of a funky thing, and you don't really need to worry about exactly why this works. But if you take a line, actually probably easier to deal with this. If you take a line and you put it through the place where they intersect, right, and bring this guy up over here, that is the same distance. And you can just kind of keep repeating that over and over and over again. So if you want to go ahead and have this repeat out in space, do that, then you bring a line up, then you do that, bring a line up, you do that, you bring a line up, and basically the size, is just going to be repeated exactly the same, just going further and further and further into distance, because you're basically hitting the halfway point. So you can subdivide by making squares, or find the center. Center by connecting the corners. So I hope that helps. Have a great day and a great rest of your week, and good luck with the perspective stuff. I know that sometimes it can seem a little bit difficult, but once you get the hang of it, it's really, really useful. And don't bang your head on stuff too much. Go look for resources and stuff, because this is something a lot of people have problems with. So there's a lot of really good information out there. So hopefully this will work, and I'll be able to upload this to YouTube. So I'll shut up.